members.
Just speak loudly. That's it. Go for it.
Good evening, members, and welcome to this meeting of the full council. I am Councillor Lynn Walters, Chairman of the Council, and I will be chairing this meeting. Before we start tonight's business, please can I remind everyone that this meeting is being webcast via the Council's YouTube channel, and please can everyone in the chamber ensure that their mobile phones and devices are switched to silent to avoid disruptions to this evening's business. This meeting is scheduled for 3 hours, and I would be grateful if everyone could ensure that they keep their speeches concise and to the issue being considered. If members wish to speak this evening, please can you indicate by clearly raising your hand. Please note that we are not expecting a fire alarm. However, in the event of an alarm, please leave via the fire exits and assemble in the car park. Members, you may have noticed that there is an error in the order of business within the agenda. I have therefore decided to reorder the agenda. Accordingly, we will consider items 7, 8 and 9 immediately after we have dealt with agenda item 5, as these items relate to motions. Following these, we will address the agenda item 6, questions to the Leader and Cabinet, and then return to the order of business as set out on the agenda. I will now proceed to the first item of business, item agenda 1. Apologies for absence. I have received apologies for absence from Councillor Tom Walsh, Councillor Billy Taylor, Councillor Sindhu Rajiv, Councillor Gabrielle Spray, Councillor David Holland and Councillor Mark Alt. Are there any other apologies for me to note? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have apologies from Councillor Abraham. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, members. We will proceed to agenda item 2, declarations of interest. Item 2, declarations of interest. Do members have any disclosable pecuniary interest, other registrable interest or non-registrable interest that they wish to declare this evening? If so, can you state the item and the nature of your interest? Councillor Thorogood and Councillor Beavis.
I just want to declare an interest in item number 10 on licensing, because I am a private hire vehicle licence holder.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Beavis.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just wanted to declare an interest in the Stansted Airport motion, as my brother-in-law has been a long-serving employee at Stansted Airport. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Beavis. Councillor Staines.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to declare an interest in item number 8, which is the commitment towards recycling, as I'm a director of PAIN, Parishes Against the Incinerator Group.
Thank you, Councillor Staines.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Abbott.
Thank you. I'd like to declare an interest in item 9 on Stansted Airport, as my declaration of interest states I am a member of Stansted Airport Watch. Actually, Stansted Airport Watch has now been effectively ended and decommissioned, and it no longer takes any membership subscriptions. So it's a sort of a legacy issue, but I thought I should mention it.
Thank you, Councillor Abbott. Councillor Williams.
Thank you. I'd like to declare an interest again on the Stansted motion, item number 9, because I work for an aviation services company.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. There are no more interests. Agenda item 3. Oh, thank you, members. There are no more declarations. We will proceed to agenda item 3, the minutes of the previous meeting. Members, we are being asked to approve the minutes of the previous meeting of the full council held on Monday, the 23rd of September, which have been circulated to all members and published on the council's website. Please, can I have a proposer to approve the minutes as an accurate record of the minutes held on the 23rd of September 2024? Thank you, Councillor Butland. And a seconder.
Councillor
Diamond. Thank you, Councillor Diamond. The minutes of the meeting have been approved and seconded as an accurate record. All in favour, please indicate. Thank you. Any abstentions? Thank you, members. The minutes are approved, and I will now sign the minutes off.
Just initial the top. Perfect.
Thank you, members. We will now proceed to agenda item 4, public question time. Agenda item 4, public question time. Members, we have no registered speakers this evening, so I will proceed to the next item of business, agenda item 5, announcements and statements from the chairman and the leader of the council. Members, I begin my announcements with the sad news and the passing of a former Braintree District Councillor, John Guyford. During his time as a district councillor, John represented Witham North Ward for the Labour Party. He was elected to the council in 1983 and served continuously for 28 years until 2010. He was the leader of the Labour group between 1999 and 2001 and became the leader of the council in 1999. When the new leader and cabinet governance arrangements were adopted by the council. Members have expressed that they would like to say a few words in tribute to John. I would like to commence this by inviting Councillor Lynn Jeffries, leader of the Labour group, to speak. Councillor Jeffries.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I had the privilege of knowing John for over 40 years. He was an intellectual, an academic, a historian, a writer, but he was also passionate about local government. As you've said, he was elected to Braintree District Council for the Witham North Ward, and he was leader between 1995 and 2000, a position that he relished. And as leader of Braintree District Council, he was proud of its reputation for innovation and high performance. He was well ahead of his time in recognising the potential contribution local government could make as opposed to central government, and in seeking to extend its influence in the local community. This was seen in his many articles and books that he wrote on the changing nature of local politics. With John, you would always know that every council contribution was meticulously researched and precisely presented. As well as his contribution to Braintree District Council, he was also an Essex County Councillor representing Witham Southern and was Labour Party parliamentary candidate for the Braintree constituency in the 1979 general election. He was respected across the region for his knowledge of local government and local political history, and gave many interesting talks to local Labour history groups, including on the history of the Witham constituency and on former Malden MP and alleged Soviet spy Tom Dryburgh. John was always willing to share his knowledge and was always available to give some sound guidance and advice to less experienced colleagues. Aside from the politics, on a personal level, I would often have chats with John about our joint interest in the Tractor Boys, an avid Ipswich Town fan all his life, with his family coming from the town. John was exceptional in his leadership and in his service, made a huge contribution to Braintree District. He was also a family man. He leaves behind his wife Janet, also a long-standing member of the Labour Party and well-known Witham historian, and his 2 children, Phil and Sue, whom we send our condolences. I can confirm that the funeral will be on Friday the 29th of November at 2:30 in the South Chapel at Chelmsford Crematorium. With family flowers only, donations to the Red Cross. Tributes can be posted on the East of England Co-op page, and the wake will be held after the funeral at the Labour Hall in Witham. Everybody's welcome. Thank you. He'll be greatly missed.
Thank you, Councillor Jeffries. Can I now invite Councillor Graham Butland, Leader of the Council, to say a few words? Councillor Butland.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. On behalf of this side of the Chamber, I'd like to express our condolences to John Guyford's family and also to colleagues opposite who have lost a long-standing servant. When I first came on the council in 2003, of course, John had been on many years. And then when I became leader, I think we were sat that side in those days and John was sat this side. But I have to be honest, when I saw John get up, I would worry about what was coming. Because as Councillor Jeffries has said, Chairman, he knew and he'd done his research, and it was quite worrying for a new leader to see John get up ready to ask a question. He didn't do it very often, but when he did, you knew there was an exocet coming if you weren't careful. So from this side, we will remember him with fondness, but also with admiration for the way in which he conducted himself and helped the Labour Party in those days. So thank you very much, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. I would like to now invite Councillor Joe Beavis, Leader of the Independent Group, just to say a few words. Councillor Beavis.
And thank you, Madam Chairman. And I'm just mindful that also Councillor Abbott from our group is going to say a few words as well, because clearly he worked with John for an amount of time as well. And I'd just like to add my ditto marks to both the speeches by Lynn this evening, and also from Councillor Butland, and that he will be dearly missed and fondly remembered. In fact, he would really like a night like tonight where there were many amendments on the table. In fact, he would rather prefer it if there was an amendment on an amendment, and then he would be really good at telling the MO exactly how that amendment should be taken. He was just a master class in the governance of our council and indeed local government, and really respected out in the wider local government family. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Beavis. Thank you, Councillor Beavis. Councillor Abbott, please. Would you like? Yes.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. John Guyford was a councillor of great distinction that some of us who were members at the time will remember him fondly, who shared time with him on the council. His remarkable length of time he served as a councillor, including 28 straight years as a district councillor for Witham North Ward, made him one of the longest serving councillors on this authority. He was an academic and Labour historian, as others have said, and lectured in local government at UCL, which completely coincidentally was the university I studied at. And any of us who went to UCL would always recognise each other through one way or another, realising that we all went there. He was so widely respected both in this district, across Essex and the region for his knowledge of local government. And echoing what Councillor Butland said, none of us have a monopoly on facts and wisdom, but when John spoke, you knew, and you knew that what he was going to say came from a position of intelligence and integrity, and you listened to what he had to say. We send our condolences to his wife Janet and John's family.
Councillor Abbott. May I now ask Councillor Jackie Pell, leader of the Halstead Residents Association, to say a few words. Councillor Pell.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. On behalf of Halstead Residents Association, I'd like to extend our sincere condolences to John's family, and there's very few in this chamber now that will remember John. I think you can count them on one hand. Now, when I first came onto the council, John extended very, very kind to me, helped me. I used to sit next to him sometimes, and he would never judge. He was a quiet man, thinking, but he would help you. If you needed help, he didn't care what party you came from, he would give you that help. And he will be sorely missed. And I have great affection remembering the things that he said and he did in those early days that I became a member. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Pell. Before I bring the tributes to a close, would any other members like to speak? Thank you, members. On behalf of the Council, I would like to convey our deepest sympathies to John's family and friends. Members, since the last Council meeting in September, I am pleased to report that I have attended 15 engagements. I attended the skate park launches at both Spa Road in Witham and Ramsey Road in Halstead. And I have to tell you, some of the youngsters on those skateboards using these parks showed no fear. It was very scary to watch. But they were brilliant events, and they were a great community turnout. It was lovely to see the community coming together and having a good time and enjoying the new facilities. I was also honoured to attend a wonderful autumn ball at the Hawthorns Care Home in Braintree. I was able to meet and dance with many of the residents and enjoy a beautiful meal with them. I was delighted to be invited also to the Braintree District Volunteer Awards, where I gave a welcome speech, closing address, and presented the Adult Sport Personality Award. Other engagements I have attended include an open day at the Happy Hills facility, Great Notley, 2 digital showcases at the Plaza, a crucial crew school workshop at Muse Care Home, a 1-year anniversary celebration there. A full list of the engagements I have attended since the last meeting of the full council will be published on the council's website. I would now like to invite Councillor Graham Butland, the leader of the council, to make any announcements. Councillor Butland.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just want briefly to refer to 4 items: Weathersfield, cost of living, local government finance and devolution. Members will be aware that I'd previously written to the Home Secretary in relation to the future use of the Weathersfield site, reaffirming our position that the site is not suitable. I received a holding response that a decision will be made in due course, but we have still not received a formal communication on the plans for the site. I've written to the Home Secretary again in October, raising concerns about some of the unintended consequences of the site, and if the government do intend to continue using it, the need to ensure that it is operated in a safe way, with improved communication to communities, faster decisions around the use of the grant outside of statutory provision, and clarity on longer-term plans for the site to ensure a positive outcome for the local area. Madam Chairman, by the next meeting, I hope to have had a response that I can share with members and will provide a more comprehensive update. Turning now to the cost of living. At our last meeting, we passed a motion regarding the cost of living, and I wrote to the Chancellor on the 18th of October to express this Council's concerns about the decision taken to restrict winter fuel payments, and have shared with her a copy of the booklet that we have provided to help signpost to our residents ways in which they can receive assistance and help. I'm aware that this has been sent to members, but if any of you haven't seen it, I would urge you to have a look and share it with any of your constituents that may feel that will benefit from it. I also want to inform members that we will be bringing forward a report to Cabinet this month on the progress of the cost of living support programme and our plans for moving forward. Thirdly, last week you'll be aware that the Chancellor set out the latest budget for the country and announced some additional, very welcome funding for local authorities. Following this, the Deputy Prime Minister wrote to all council leaders in England setting out what the announcements in the budget meant for MHCLG, and I copied that to all members of the Council. We are currently working through how this might impact upon us at Braintree District Council, but the full picture won't become clear until we have more details, which will be provided over the next few weeks in the run-up to Christmas. When these details are known, they will be fed into our annual budget setting for 2025-26 and our medium-term financial strategy. This afternoon, I had the honour of addressing the all-party parliamentary group for the East of England as chairman of the East of England LGA, and was delighted with the support cross-party for many of the issues that we had been raising. For example, the impact of homelessness on the budgets of district, city and unitary authorities, and also for children's services and those with SEND responsibilities as well. I thought what was particularly helpful was that many of the new members of Parliament have a local government background and know what it's about. And my parting shot to them was to say, now that you've reached the heights of Westminster, please don't forget where your roots started. And I have to say, it was well stated by one of the members there that they recognised entirely that whilst funding, etc., was central, it was actually local government that delivered the services. So hopefully we will establish a very good rapport with that all-party parliamentary group. Turning finally to devolution, the Chancellor confirmed the government's plans to widen devolution to more areas across the country, and further details on those plans will be contained in the upcoming English devolution white paper, which is expected to be published this month. The white paper will also set out how the government will work with councils to move to simpler structures that make sense for their local areas. We will be working closely with our partners across Essex when the white paper is released to understand what this means for the district and how we ensure that services that our residents and businesses value and trust continue to be delivered in the most efficient and effective way and are protected for the future. Madam Chairman, I think on those 4 issues alone, you can see that there will be an interesting amount of work coming to us over the next few months, and I hope to keep members fully informed and involved in those issues. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. Members, as advised earlier, we will now deal with the motions. The first motion is the agenda item 7, the motion by Councillor Joe Bevis, Councillors' Commitment to Live Well. Members, following the publication of this report, as set out on page 5 and 6 of the agenda, An amendment to the published motion was received in accordance with the Council's procedural rules. Councillor Beavis and Councillor Finken, as proposers and seconder of the original motion, were consulted and have consented to the amendment. As a consequence of this acceptance, the amended motion is now substantive motion to be considered this evening. Members, please can I remind you that the addendum report setting out the amended motion was published and circulated to all members on Friday the 1st of November, and we will be referring to the amended motion report for the debate. Councillor Beavis and Councillor Finken, the proposer and seconder of the motions, are both present this evening, so the motion may proceed. Councillor Beavis, can you formally move the motion? Please can I remind you that before you make your speech, your motion, it must be seconded.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and I formally move the substantive motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Beavis. Councillor Finken, you are recorded as the seconder of this motion. Please confirm that you are the second. You second this motion and you do wish to reserve the right to speak. Councillor Finken.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I second the motion and I reserve the right to speak.
Thank you, Councillor Finken. Members, this motion has been formally moved and seconded by Councillor Beavis and Councillor Finken. I will now invite Councillor Beavis to make her speech. Councillor Beavis, if you would like to make your speech and motion.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And the purpose of the substantive motion is to support all residents of the Braintree District to live well. We all recognise the financial challenges within the NHS. Live Well is about our council doing its bit to promote preventative health initiatives that help our residents to live healthy lives. The specific areas of focus are set out in our papers this evening and include better access to public open spaces in line with this council's corporate strategy to reduce obesity, address school readiness in our young people and better awareness of mental health services. I thank the Cabinet Member, Councillor Lynette Bowers-Flint, for inviting me to a recent Live Well update briefing meeting. And tonight's substantive motion sets out the establishment of a cross-party approach to allow more members to engage in the issues of public health and health prevention under the banner of Live Well. One of the 6 priorities is Die Well. There are issues in our district from residents about the pressures on beds for end-of-life care in our district. And I'd really like to thank, in moving this motion, the voluntary sector, including those at St Helena's Hospice and Farley Hospice, who work so well to bring better services for end-of-life care to many residents in our district. I so move.
Thank you, Councillor Beavis. Do any members wish to speak on this motion? Please can I remind members that their speeches must be directed to the motion under discussion. Thank you, members, for your patience. Councillor Hooks, would you like to speak, sir? Madam, I beg your pardon.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I support this substantive motion. At the last full council, I asked if all members of the council could receive greater and more meaningful information on a range of boards and committees at the council. Tonight's motion on Live Well goes some way to greater engagement, so thank you.
Thank you, Madam. Councillor Garrod.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Much of the contents of this motion is already embedded in the current Live Well Health and Wellbeing Strategy, where the Council discusses the benefits of focusing on prevention and early intervention to maintain good health. Of course, we would like an environment where everyone can access appropriate facilities and help look after themselves and their families. This type of criteria is also supported within other council documents, and whilst the Asset Management Framework Policy Strategy and Plan was presented in its draft format at the recent Corporate Policy Development meeting, I was pleased to see that the first key priority for our communities is to improve the health, well-being and quality of life for individuals and families and reduce health inequalities, focusing on prevention and early intervention. And the first key priority under the heading Environment is to protect and enhance our built and natural environments across the district, providing good access to open spaces and increasing biodiversity. And perhaps most importantly, under the heading Fit for the Future, which quoted what the Council had heard from our residents, communities, businesses, members and stakeholders, is the importance of helping people to help themselves and have less reliance on council services, a very important point which is not covered in this motion. Whilst all of the subjects within this motion are very important to our residents, I'm also mindful of the first sentence, which reminds us of the growing financial constraints on local authorities. It's also important to note that other organisations and partners also have their own responsibilities to contribute and finance some of these actions, and the Council cannot be burdened with additional costs where the responsibility lies elsewhere. I will be happy to support this motion, but largely because it is based on much of what the Council is already doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Garrett. Councillor Staines.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think Live Well could help avoid costly emergency intervention, and I support the goals of this substantive motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Staines. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. It is just a few words. I would like to support this motion. As an active member of the Essex tennis community, I know only too well the importance of our residents keeping active and living healthy lives. Tonight's substantive motion highlights pressures on an already stretched NHS and encourages all to do more to live well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Heath.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I too would like to support this motion because, as the leader said in his statement earlier, when we work together with cross-party support and collaboration, we achieve much more than politics, and this is welcome.
Thank you, Councillor Heath. Councillor Barsflint.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. What has been put forward to you tonight, I would just like to give a little bit more detail to it. Improving access to public open spaces across Braintree District. Some of the ways in which this council has addressed the theme through 2024, through our UK Share Prosperity Fund, we have supported 15 community gardens totalling £37,773.91, and that was just in 23-24. We've rebuilt and opened 3 new skate parks in Halstead, Witham and Braintree towns. We've developed a community garden in partnership with the Wilderness Foundation for adults with mental health needs at the Braintree Recreation Ground. Reducing obesity. This council works closely with Provide CIC and other commissioned health services to signpost residents to weight management provisions. This is also included for staff where we have delivered weight management programmes and lifestyle checks throughout 2024. Increasing physical activity. Through the Active Braintree Foundation and working with Active Essex, we have increased the active referral scheme across all Fusion centres. The scheme allows for inactive residents to have prepaid sport and physical activity sessions. Fusion has just been nominated for a national award for this work. Improving school readiness in young children, which is so important. School readiness is mainly supported through delivery by the Essex Child and Family Wellbeing Service via the Family Hubs, who we continue to work in close partnership with. We work with our Mid-Essex Children's Commissioner to support the themes around The Be Well group. Subgroup meets monthly and has a group shared outcome that all children and young people in Mid-Essex lead positively, healthily lifestyles. The current focus for the group is how to engage with school-aged children to expand and enhance the school nurse drop-in sessions, with the importance of collective communication strategies for school health programmes identified as key action. Increase the school holiday children and families activity by 10% to meet the growth in free school meals eligibility. In total, this summer, 6,725 places were provided by Active Essex with funding support from this council. Promote awareness of mental health support services. The council coordinates and chairs a district mental health forum that meets 4 times a year. The forum exists to bring partners across community, voluntary and statutory sectors together locally. Through the forum, we have commissioned Mid and North Essex Mind to provide 300 places on the mental health toolkit, training and their personality disorder service support group, of which members I attended because I was so interested in what this group is all about and what it does. It is absolutely fascinating to sit and listen to those people of what they've had to go through and what they've experienced. We've also, with Wilderness Foundation, to provide therapeutic activities for adults with complex needs at the community garden. Anybody who doesn't know the Wilderness Foundation could well do with trying to get a visit there, because it is an absolutely fantastic thing for people's mental health and well-being of all ages. Now, the difficulty one. Request developers to install defibrillators on new housing sites above a threshold site to be determined. Currently, there are no requirements in planning policy for automated external defibrillators to be provided within new developments. There are also no provision in either planning legislation or within building regulations. Building regulations or a relevant planning policy are currently the mechanisms used to secure EV charging points with new developments. Given this, the local planning authority would have no ability to require this provision on new developments, and any encouragement should be limited to an informative which requests the installation of an AED. Although these are non-binding on the developer, the use of planning condition would fail the legal tests for conditions, as this is not a planning policy or legal requirement. Further, it should also be noted that planning permission could not be withheld as a result of lack of any such provision. There are also practicalities relating to the installation which have to be considered. Moving forward, members, the Liverpool strategy was launched in January 2024, and a Year 1 impact report will be produced early in 2025. With much of Year 1 focused on Start Well, Year 2 will focus on developing actions around Age Well and Die Well as areas of priority. And Councillor Beavers paid reference to the fantastic work that the 2 hospices that are used by this district do. But also Die Well is also about getting people prepared for the inevitable, and that is including writing wills, because if you haven't got a will, it causes so much trouble for your loved ones and whoever's left behind if there's no will. So I hope everybody in this room has got a will, because it will help those that you love later on in life. So, Madam Chairman, we do a lot. I've tried to put some of it into context. I will send out to every single member after this meeting the full thing of this, because we do a lot, and we know we're doing a lot, and we do exceptionally well in this thing. But obviously we can't do everything because a lot of these services are out of our control. So therefore, Madam Chairman, I would support this, and I will give members more information about exactly what we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bowes-Flint. Councillor Butland.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I wasn't going to say anything, but I think we've paid, quite rightly, respect to Farley and St Helena Hospice for the work they have done. I just want to make the point that terminal illness is no respecter of age, and we need to remember that not huge numbers, but we do have children who have terminal illness and are supported by the 2 hospices serving the district. That's Little Havens, based in Southend, and East Anglia Children's Hospices, based in Colchester and Ipswich. And they're important not only for the work that they do with the sick child, but with siblings, who so often, the impact on their life of living with a child who basically consumes the whole being of a family are sometimes overlooked. And sometimes we just forget that. So, yes, Farley, yes, St Helena, but let us also remember our 2 children's hospices as well. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. Councillor Finken, you have reserved the right to speak. Do you wish to do so now, sir?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I support everything that's been said on both sides of the chamber, but I would like to draw on the second bullet point at the beginning, which is establish a cross-party collaborative approach to help deliver our health and well-being priorities. I think there is a great value in involving more members in developing our approaches. At the moment, we have 2 very good cabinet members who do that. But I think there are backbench members who would have a valuable part to play and could make a good input. And I also think that all the political groups in the council should be involved in some way, as it's such an important issue. So I hope that won't be forgotten. Yes, the content of the proposal and all the different things that we want to see happen is important, but I think involving members more effectively is also very important and should be part of our way forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Finken. Councillor Beavis, you may reply. Please, can I remind you that you should confine your reply to the speeches heard this evening, and you should not introduce any new matters.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I always remember years ago when Live Well was created, it was about the brand. It was about creating something that could be that overarching word that encompassed all the good work that we're doing. And I'm not for one moment suggesting that we don't do it. And in some respects, perhaps it's because I do read a lot about Live Well, and I have had family and loved ones in situations where we have had to have care, that it makes one dig a little bit deeper. But actually, funnily enough, I've done a bit of a spot check over the last few weeks amongst my sort of friendship groups and family, and spoke to them about be well, die well, start well, age well, and they're like, what on earth are you talking about? And I think that's quite important for us to remember when we go back to what brand was all about, because it was something at the time we were really excited about, and I just feel that we could do a bit more still with that brand as we do with other things. I also feel as well that to disseminate the information down to our town, parish and the voluntary sector amongst our district that work tirelessly around this area of work. And actually, my golly gosh, if they put down their tools, where would we be? So I thank the Cabinet member for promising to issue more updates to all members. And I wholeheartedly do say that when I appreciate the information that you provide back to me, I do find it really useful. So to give that information to all members, I think would be really important. Finally, I do feel, perhaps as a longer standing member of the council, that just those cabinet member reports that we used to get gave us so much. And we knew a bit more. So I think just a bit more of that would be really welcome. And finally, that cross-party piece that Councillor Finken spoke about, that actually we've all got something to give. And maybe a little surgery every 6 months or something, an open door with all members around this area, I think, would be a really good place to start as well. But I thank all of the comments this evening. I think we're all chiming on this. And we all, as said in the motion, want our residents to live well and, have good end-of-life care. So, yes, thank you very much indeed, Councillor Bousland.
Thank you, Councillor Beavis. Members, can I remind you that we are going to be voting on the motion set out on the addendum report. All in favour of the motion, please indicate. Thank you, members. This is a unanimous vote. The motion has been approved. Thank you, members, for your assistance in this. We will now proceed to the second motion for the evening, agenda item 8, which is motion by Councillor Malcolm Finken. Members, following the publication of this report set out on page 7 and 8 of the agenda, an amendment to the published motion was received in accordance with the Council's procedural rules. Councillor Finken and Councillor Abbott, as the proposer and seconder of the original motion, were consulted and have consented to the amendment. As a consequence of this acceptance, the amended motion is now the substantive motion to be considered this evening. Members, please can I remind you that the addendum report setting out the amended motion is published and circulated to all members on Friday the 1st of November 2024, and we will be referring to the amended motion report for the debate. Councillor Finken and Councillor Abbott, the proposer and seconder of the motions, are both present this evening, so the motion may proceed. Councillor Finken, can you formally move your motion? Please can I remind you before you make your speech on your motion, it must be seconded.
I formally move the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Finken. Councillor Abbott, you are recorded as the seconder for this motion. Please can you second this motion, and do you wish to reserve your right to speak?
I second and reserve the right. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Abbott. Members, the motion has been formally moved and seconded by Councillor Finken and Councillor Abbott. We are now to invite Councillor Finken to make his speech.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm very pleased to propose this motion to reaffirm the Council's commitment to addressing the climate emergency through increasing recycling rates and tackling other environmental measures which are within the Council's control. I'd like to start by saying that in moving the motion, we're not criticising the work of officers involved in recycling, quite the reverse. They're doing a sterling job in encouraging more recycling through communications, events, letters, personal interventions and enforcement. But one reason for bringing forward this motion now is that this Council's record in household waste recycling at present is only 44%, and that's average for the UK. The most successful councils in England are recycling 61% of household waste. The new waste strategy for Essex commits all Essex councils to achieve 65% to 70% recycling, reusing or composting by 2035 and reduce general rubbish by half by 2042. We need to be learning lessons from the most successful councils to improve our recycling rates. One recommended method for increasing recycling rates, for example, is to send texts and emails to remind residents to recycle what can and can't be recycled just before a collection day. I was pleased to see on the council page in the local paper this week that you can contact a phone number to receive these reminders. But we need to make this service more widely known. Perhaps through stickers on the bins? It'll be compulsory to provide recycling for a wider range of materials at the curbside in the next year or so. So we'll need a big publicity campaign to encourage residents to make the most of these opportunities. Increasing the amount of business waste recycling is an urgent necessity. Some businesses are very good at this, but others are lagging behind. The compulsory changes to business waste recycling, which come into force in April 2026, will be a game changer. But in the short term, there's a great deal that can be done to encourage more businesses to recycle glass and food waste in particular. Recycling bring banks, which we mention in the motion on new developments, is a controversial issue. But there are opportunities on some new developments for providing bring banks which are unobtrusive and are far enough distant from residential properties not to cause noise nuisance. It's undoubtedly true that people are more likely to use bring banks if they're reasonably close to where they live. I know that our seconder, Councillor James Abbott, is an expert on light pollution and related energy wastage, so I'll let him talk about those issues. Also, Councillor Michael Staines has done a sterling job in canvassing opinion on air pollution on the internet in a very short time, so I'll let him talk about that during the debate. Although we understand that we can't at present require developers to install electric car points, photovoltaic panels and rainwater harvesting, planning officers and the planning committee, especially at the planning members' forums, have already had success in encouraging developers to include some of these facilities in their plans, and we need to redouble our efforts to press them to do so in the future. I'd like to thank Councillors Tom Cunningham and Kevin Bowers for their amendment, which we've been happy to incorporate into our motion. Government policy is crucial for attaining our recycling and environmental objectives. Luckily, we now have a government which is committed to tackling climate change and attaining our net zero targets and won't be kicking the can down the road. Some new financial resources will, of course, be required, but in other cases, it's a question of changing our priorities because some changes don't require extra resources. I hope that members will include other ideas in the debate, and thank you for listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Finken. Do any members wish to speak on this motion? Please can I remind members that their speeches must be directed to the motion under discussion. Councillor Staines.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I support this substantive motion, and as Councillor Finken mentioned, I recently conducted a survey using Facebook with residents in advance of this motion and ahead of the March local air quality strategy implementation, and I wonder if this could be a candidate for start and finish group action. I look forward to working with BDC, Essex County Council, the Environment Agency and resident groups to address the air quality concerns of the residents. NOx is no longer the biggest health concern in the district. Residents overwhelmingly wanted a wider range of pollutants to be measured, including PM10 and PM2.5, and these come from combustion and relate mostly to the growth in heavy diesel traffic, the new incinerator and log burners. It should be noted that more than 80,000 5 to 7 kilowatt log burners operating 24 hours a day all year round will be required to create as much CO2 and other stuff per year as the incinerator currently under construction at Rivenhall. Residents also told us nearly half have respiratory health issues, and I guess this will be a key area of the Live Well strategy informed by robust objective air quality monitoring. 86% said that knowing that the real-time pollutant levels would help them make informed health decisions. Residents also expressed very strong concerns about the credibility of polluters to monitor and publicise their own emissions. And finally, residents clearly wanted more money spent on air quality monitoring. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Staines. Councillor Prime.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just reading through the motion, I agree with quite a bit of it, but a lot of it seems to be around planning. And surely it's not us to come up with these ideas for planning. I've sat on many planning committees with various members opposite, and we've put them to the developers. So I agree with a lot of it, but I'm not over keen on passing a motion for the planning side of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Prime. Councillor Heath.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd like to support this motion. And also, as there does seem to be a theme of cooperation running through this evening's meeting, I wondered if we can actually look at getting together with the 51 town and parish councils we have in this district and see whether on the item of electrical and white goods, whether we can arrange collection points around there that this council then coordinates to ensure that they are reused rather than taken to the amenity sites and serve a much better purpose than they are at the moment. We've got, as I say, we've got these town halls, we've got the parish halls, we've got all the other let's make better use of them, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Heath. Councillor Bowers.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, I'd like to commend the proposer and seconder of the original motion of accepting the amendment put forward by myself and Councillor Cunningham. I just wanted to say a few words in regards to the finance and service perspective, as we do need to be mindful of the overall financial challenges facing this council, and that we continue to keep under review the government's policy direction and proposals over waste reforms, including any potential funding that may be available through new burdens or the extended producer responsibility for packaging payment scheme. The local government finance settlement should provide further detail on our short-term funding. However, longer-term certainty will not come until next year's spending review is concluded, and local government has a multi-year financial horizon to plan against, whether positive or otherwise. There will be a report to a future cabinet on waste collection options, which will include outline cost differentials as well as an indicator of any capital expenditure investment. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Bowers. Councillor Beavis.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm also rising to support the motion this evening. I get a bit irritated with what's going on around our district at the moment in terms of the way that we recycle. And I think since we've taken away the calendars, our residents are quite confused about what bin to put out where. And it happens in my household all the time, so I'm sure it must happen in others about what bin are we putting out. We've now got this booking system for taking our recycling to Braintree. I'm sure members will be well aware that if you try and get into Braintree, it's a complete nightmare. And in fact, I found myself at Whittam last weekend, and when I got to Whittam, the guy said to me, well, I don't know why you've come here. You could actually have gone to Braintree, and the booking system just isn't working. I didn't really want to hear that as a district councillor. I also think charging for the green bins, and one of the messages I'm getting back on the ground is people saying that if there is more money coming into the district council for charging for green bins, then surely there's going to be more money to sort out some of the issues we have in our district around rubbish. And I think one of the clear messages I think we should be sending out after the amount of fly tipping that myself and Councillor Taylor are particularly reporting in the Hedinghams is if you have got rubbish, use the right mechanism to get rid of it and simply just put rubbish in the bin. And I actually think the work that we do as a council on Facebook is absolutely brilliant, really first class. And there must be insights. We must be able to understand what's gaining traction. And I'm sure when we look back, we'd see that when we put anything on about litter, it gets traction. So let's just do more and more of the education piece for the residents of our district. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Beavis. Councillor Coleridge.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to comment on the bullet point of encourage the installation of electrical car points, PV panels and rainwater harvesting on all new developments. Outside of this chamber, I work as a property owner's underwriter for an insurance company, and one of the biggest issues we have at the moment is on new developments and some of the sort of green features that are being placed on buildings. Whilst on the face of it, these should be encouraged, where these aren't designed adequately, they are introducing a lot more risk to buildings, specifically from a fire perspective. And for rainwater harvesting, they can cause substantial water damage losses on buildings. So whilst on the face of it, it could be encouraged, there are other features that are sort of driving up insurance costs for these new developments, so they have to be done in a responsible way. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Coleridge. Councillor Parker.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just wanted to comment really on the bullet point which requires the Council to reduce light pollution and related energy wastage on existing buildings. I personally have one of my pet hates is uplighters on existing buildings, on houses. But we as a council, even through the planning department, have no control over what householders choose to put on their own buildings, on their own homes. So whilst I think that's, you know, in lots of ways a laudable aim, it's something that is outside of our control as a council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Parker. Councillor Cunningham.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Very pleased to support the motion and thank Councillor Finkham and Councillor Abbott for bringing forward this motion this evening, and also add particular thanks for accepting our amendment and allowing the debate to be framed within the terms of wanting to see considerable change, but also appreciating the complexities and indeed the financial responsibilities that we'll need to consider in implementing those changes. With regard to the matters of light pollution, where we are, for want of a better term, at the mercy of the planning system, I think we share a collective frustration. That's indeed no reflection on the planning function here at Braintree District Councils or members who sit assiduously working through planning applications, but there are frustrations there that, that need to be unlocked to allow some of that wider ambition to be fulfilled, and we hope we can enter a period where that takes place. With regard to encouraging that great behavioural change in recycling, and I appreciate the comments and frustrations expressed, we are in a unique position where we have the opportunity of a major change of approach in terms of waste collection, yes, directed by central government, where the expectation level will be higher and what we collect will be greater. But there is an opportunity through that to incentivise and get that significant behavioural change we all want to see and those improved recycling rates. Under no illusions, that's such a fundamental change to one of our core services, if not our most core service that we provide here. There are going to be complexities, there are going to be challenges, but I look forward to us all collectively meeting those challenges ahead. That direction of travel that will set us on the course to the new processes and the new collection methods will start next month, a members' evening on Thursday the 5th of December, prior to a paper ahead of Cabinet and a wider consultation on a new approach. And that during that consultation period, there will be that great opportunity to engage with all aspects and all elements, all communities of the district of Braintree. So can I once again thank Councillor Finkham, thank Councillor Abbott for bringing this forward and look forward to the same spirit of cooperation offered by most colleagues opposite this evening and colleagues behind us here on the administration benches as we reach these as we meet these challenges in the upcoming weeks and months. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Bowers-Flint.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I wasn't going to speak, but I have to rise to my feet to disagree with Councillor Beavis about Braintree Recycling Centre. It is not a dump, it's not a tip, it's a recycling centre. And there are more opportunities now than ever to take your goods to those recycling centres and get them recycled. Also, about the booking, I have to say that I was sceptical when the county first brought it in, but have loved it ever since and found it easy. In fact, I'm not quite sure the difficulties that she has, because of this week there's 168 bookings available and only one is booked. So there's 167 bookings still available every single day, every single hour, except for 1 hour tomorrow, and it's a random time, 11 till 11:15. So if she wants to go this week, there's loads of space. And I think, and I have to applaud the county, because all I've heard is good things about this booking system. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bowers-Flint. Councillor Butland.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. My colleague has beaten me to it. There are 840 slots between now and the end of November, and there is only one, as Councillor Bowers-Flint says, 11 to 11:15 tomorrow. So if Councillor, through you, Madam Chairman, if Councillor Beavis is having a problem, just give either of us a ring and we will be happy to tell you or your constituents how they can do it. But can I also seriously say, pay tribute to the staff up there who are absolutely brilliant. You know, I go up and say, look, I'm not sure, I've got this, and they direct me to the container with no problem at all. But also the fact that, you know, some of the stuff up there, it is about recycling. It's not just about dumping it. And you know, try there first, because that is an excellent service which is so accessible for most people in the district. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. Councillor Abbott, having reserved the right to speak, do you wish to do so now?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. I had made a note to mention booking for our seats, but I don't think I will now. In respect of what it's called, well, it's the afternoon out for me and my wife to go to the dump. But I know they are recycling centres. But seriously, covering a few of the other points made, Councillor Parker mentioned about lights outside, some lights outside of control. Yes, and that's a frustration. And Councillor Prime, I think it was, mentioned about the number of issues here which are down under planning. Yes, you can look at it in that way, that these are formal things we have to do, but we do also have a community leadership and information role. And I was involved many years ago in helping to draft the leaflet. I don't know if the council still does one on energy saving and light pollution. So that is about both the formal things we can do, but also the things we can do in terms of information. Some people would say, some people do say, that the UK produces only a few percentage of greenhouse gas emissions globally. That's a completely wrong way of thinking. Carbon dioxide, methane and other greenhouse gases do not recognise national boundaries. They're very well mixed in the atmosphere. And we simply have got to stop the increase in concentrations if we're going to deal with climate change. So we need to do all the things in this motion and more if we can. I won't go through all the actions listed, as other members have covered them, and as Councillor Finkin said, we've sort of divvied up a bit as to which ones we'd concentrate on. So the two main ones I want to talk about are the overall recycling rate and energy use. As Councillor Finkin quite rightly said, recycling in Braintree District, Essex and indeed nationally has flatlined for some time. It's not really moved for about a decade. This council's ambition, which was a target first proposed by our group, and the County Council's new targets in its strategy, are aiming to get to around about 2/3 to 3/4 of all municipal waste being recycled. That's some way off. And that's only going to be achieved by a combination of changes, including much higher take-up of recycling opportunities, expanding opportunities, and as in the ways the motion sets out, and definitely avoiding the easy option, in inverted commas, of burning waste. Now, burning waste is a looming issue for this district, as the Rivenhall Airfield incinerator will start to enter operations about a year from now. It was remarkable that the Essex Climate Czar, who is in this room as a district councillor, issued a press release saying he was delighted about the contract Essex County Council has entered into with the Rivenhall Airfield incinerator, which will produce roughly 600,000 tonnes of carbon dioxide per annum. Others, I won't go into details, have made the point about we should be making recycling as easy as possible and not more difficult. A key factor in terms of climate change and recycling is composting of recycling of food and green waste, which somehow got lost in the process of formulating this motion. There are genuinely sustainable technological opportunities, including genuinely sustainable energy production, unlike waste incineration, from anaerobic digestion, which I'm a big fan of, where you turn food and green waste into compost and you also can produce biogas. With respect to energy, the advent of LED lights has been both a blessing and a curse, but it does offer great opportunities in a wide range of control systems, which can be also used alongside things like infrared CCTV. And so therefore we can deliver on lower energy use and reducing light pollution if we put a mind to it. And I'm going to do something now which is very rare for me. I'm going to give Essex County Council credit for their park night lighting system, which uses LEDs and, subject to some local issues, which are always going to happen when you make a big change, has achieved both the target of reducing energy use and reducing light pollution, albeit late at night. But going in the other direction, as others have mentioned, is the growth, the sheer growth, the plethora of the number of lights for other uses which are not controlled for hours of use or are badly designed, which can cause nuisance to others and add to light pollution. I won't go through the list, but particular areas of concern for me are industrial areas and business parks. Many of them are lit all night, but where premises are not open, they simply don't need to be. The technology is available now not to have to do that and still to provide security. On new houses, the growing fashion is, you see them all over the district, and I've raised it in planning forums and planning committee, but nothing changes. Up-down lights, 50% of the energy from those lights is going straight up the wall and into the sky. That's an incredible waste of energy. And the growing fashion of lighting for effect is going in the wrong direction. So let's work across this council in the spirit of cross-party working to make improvements in this area, which will save energy, reduce impacts on residents, reduce impacts on nocturnal wildlife, and protect the night sky. Now, those of us who have an interest in this, you know, we might be seen as a bit niche, but actually it's a great interest to many residents to be able to see the natural night sky, as indeed the big displays of the aurora have shown this year, which were featured in the media, and many people saw them for the first time and took photographs. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Abbott. Councillor Finken, you may reply. Please can I remind you that you should confine your reply to the speeches heard this evening, and you should not introduce any new matters.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and thank all the members who've contributed to the debate, which I think has been extremely useful and interesting. Some points were made about planning, and I think it's important to say that we're not requiring developers to do anything, but the council does have a leadership role, and we talked about behavioural change, and I think that applies both to individuals and households and also to developers, and there are opportunities to influence people. So I hope that all councillors will be able to support the motion and show our residents that on these issues, the whole council is working together to protect our environment and achieve our climate change goals. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Finken. Members, please can I remind you that you are now voting on the motion set out on the addendum report. All those in favour of the motion, please indicate. Thank you, members. The vote is unanimous. The motion has been approved. Thank you, members. We will now proceed to the third motion for this evening, the agenda item 9. Motion by Councillor Frankie Ritchie. Investment of Stansted Airport for improvements and expansion. Councillor Ritchie. Members, following the publication of this report, as set out on pages 9 to 10 of the agenda, an amendment to the published motion has been received in accordance with the Councillors' procedural rules. Councillor Ritchie and Councillor Van Dolken, as the proposer and seconder of the original motion, were consulted and have consented to the amendment. As a consequence of this acceptance, the amended motion is now the substantive motion to be considered this evening. Members, please can I remind you that the addendum report setting out the amended motion was published and circulated to all members on the 1st of November 2024, and we will be referring to the amended motion report for this debate. Councillor Ritchie and Councillor Van Dolken, the proposer and seconder of the motion, are both present this evening, and so the motion may proceed. Councillor Ritchie, please can you formally move the motion? Please can I remind you that before you make your speech, the motion, it must be seconded.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Happy to move the motion as set out as agenda item 9 amended. Thank you. Thank you,
Councillor Ritchie. Councillor Van Dolken, you are recorded as the seconder of this motion. Please can you confirm that you are the second, this is the second motion, and you do wish to reserve your right to speak?
Yes, Madam Chairman, I do second this motion and reserve my right to speak.
Thank you, Councillor Van Dolken. Members, the motion has been formally moved and seconded by Councillor Ritchie and Councillor Van Dolken. I will now invite Councillor Ritchie to make his speech.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Good evening, members. It's with enthusiasm and support that I bring this motion this evening in recognition of the recent announcement by Stansted Airport for their private £1.1 billion investment and expansion plan. These ambitious infrastructure plans will enable their passenger numbers to grow from 35 million to 43 million passengers per annum, whilst not increasing and keeping their current air traffic movement numbers. This council recognises explicitly the role that Stansted has as an international port and what it plays, not just for Essex, but for our district locally. The airport has employed a great number of our district's residents since its major opening in 1991 and has contributed to both secondary and tertiary businesses across the district in supporting its day-to-day operation with not just employment for the airport, but for the many functions that supports the airport, such as airlines, airline operations, ground handling, cargo, hotels, etc. With an expanding route network, this will bring international opportunity not only for local business, but for those visiting friends and family, and for an increasing tourist trade that lands and departs a mere 12 miles away from our district. Stansted has a good track record of working with local communities, with over £30 million invested into local groups in the volunteering sector. And we look forward to ensuring that this continues and that this share is shared amongst the district and available in the coming years. Madam Chairman, this motion is set out in the addendum report on agenda item 9, and I so move this motion this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Ritchie. Do any members wish to speak on this motion? Please can I remind members that their speeches must be directed to the motion under discussion. Councillor Beavis.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and I'm going to try again. And I'm going to be supporting the motion, and I want to speak specifically about buses and where are the buses. So my young niece, she lives in Halstead. I don't. I live further upriver. And for 3 years, she attended the Harlow College at Stansted Airport. And for those 3 years, we as a family had to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. We got her to Braintree Bus Park. And from Braintree Bus Park, it took her to Stansted Airport at 7 o'clock in the morning. And then she had to wait for 9 o'clock for the class to start. She was lucky that she had auntie and mum to run her around. Many others weren't so lucky, so we sort of had a bit of a family bus shuttle to make sure we got everybody there on time. And it was similar coming home in the evenings, apart from the fact that she got back into Braintree on dark evenings where we were in regular contact, obviously with our mobile phones, to get her home again. I really appreciate the amount of opportunity there is for young people at the airport, but I really do think that we need to do better in understanding the needs of young people to get them to their place of work and training in a safe and appropriate manner. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Beavis. Councillor Ball.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to support this motion, but I'd just like to say that it's disappointing that the essential word is note rather than warmly welcome. as far as I'm concerned, the role that Stansted Airport plays in providing jobs for our residents, good, highly paid, quality jobs, really deserves this to be warmly welcomed, and that personally is how I feel about it. I fully appreciate the concerns around the air travel industry and its role in environmental concerns, but that would happen elsewhere rather than Stansted if this were not to go ahead. And I take note that there'll be no further implications in the numbers of flights, whatever. So overall, I would support it, but just like to make those points. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ball. Councillor Abbott.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. It is undoubtedly the case that Stansted Airport provides many jobs. It is also the case that it is having impacts through increasing road traffic, issues with off-site parking and, of course, noise from jets, as demonstrated by letters to the local press recently, and the noise complaints logged with the airport. It was very welcome that the mover and seconder of this motion accepted the amendment from myself and Councillor Paul Thorogood, which I would suggest provides more of a balance to that difficult consideration of jobs and economic benefits versus environmental harms. And as part of that was changing the wording from warmly welcome to notes. And the reason I say that is half of people don't fly at all. Most of the flights are taken by frequent flyers, but those people who do not fly at all may be some of those who experience the adverse impacts of aviation growth. As we discussed in the previous motion, climate change is a huge issue for all of humanity, and we have to stop emissions continually rising. The flooding disaster in Spain recently shows what can happen when a known weather pattern is supercharged by anthropogenic global warming. Aviation is one of the fastest growing sectors for greenhouse gas emissions, and endlessly expanding airports in road capacity is, I would say without equivocation, completely at odds with the imperative to reduce emissions. It's not for us tonight, but the next chapter for Stansted, when it reaches its current limit, could be a bid by Manchester Airport Group for a second runway, and that would have huge implications for North and West Essex and other neighbouring counties.
Thank you, Councillor Abbott. Councillor Mrs Cunningham.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I thoroughly support the Stansted expansion motion, in this motion. The recently announced expansion to Stansted Airport, and hopefully completed by 2028, could see passenger numbers through the airport rise to 43 million. It's 29 million at present, and that's an increase of a third. There is huge potential here to boost this district's tourism offer. I remember when we carried out the Task and Finish group on tourism in the winter of 2017-18, Councillor Mrs Pell chaired that group, and it was, I remember, a very enthusiastic group. One of the barriers we found to the district's tourism offer was the lack of boutique-style or five-star hotel accommodation suitable for short breaks, which made the district a day trip destination rather than anything more. I don't believe we have moved on much since then in terms of accommodation in the district. There is huge potential here for the district to harvest some of the income benefits of the increasing passenger numbers entering Stansted. We have a much enhanced retail experience now at Braintree Village. We sit beside a racecourse that has an expanding programme of racing and other events, and our towns and villages have an abundance of other venues that offer a variety of attractions, as well, of course, as our beautiful rural countryside, which I remember rural members in that Task and Finish group were very, very adamant that that must not be forgotten. There's a real potential package here to make our district a short break destination. Excuse me. I think as we refresh the local plan,
we explore and take the opportunity to realise the potential that could come from the future airport expansion and secure sites that could greatly enhance Braintree's future tourism offer. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor. Mrs Cunningham. Councillor Thorogood.
Thank you, Chair. Local county, regional and UK government policies are committed to legally binding climate targets. It is my view, expansion of airports flies in the face of these targets and locks in for the long-term increased use of aviation fuel. At a time when the carbon curve should be coming down to try to keep the global temperature rise to below 1.5 degrees centigrade by 2030, money and investment is still flowing into airport expansion, oil, coal and gas extraction, and thereby carbon emissions continue to rise steeply. Most climate scientists agree that 1.5 degrees is already baked in, and now we should be aiming to keep the global rise to 2.0 degrees. But realistically, if business as usual policies continue, we're looking at 3 degrees by the end of the century, and globally hot summers of the past few years will be seen as cool in comparison, and the apocalyptic weather events and the resultant flooding in Spain last week will be commonplace. More jobs are of course welcome, but the economic benefit may be very short-lived. Economists are now predicting if we don't keep the temperature below 1.5 degrees, as we don't seem to be doing, by 2049 the cost of climate change to the world will be 38 trillion a year, or twice the annual GDP of the entire EU, and a 17% reduction in the global economy's GDP. I just want to read this quote from climate scientist and carbon footprint expert Mike Berners-Lee, the brother of Tim Berners-Lee, the inventor of the World Wide Web. In his book, There's No Planet B, Mike Berners-Lee says flights will be harmful for the foreseeable future, and the pressure aviation puts on emissions is incredibly high. Adding, every policymaker needs to understand this, and anyone who don't are surely unfit for office. If the world had infinite resources and could absorb without any negative impact all the pollution that human civilization chucked at it, airport expansion and increased aviation wouldn't be a problem, apart from the noise, of course. But the world is finite, and there is a limit to how much pollution in the form of climate-wrecking man-made greenhouse gases it can take. Biofuel-powered planes and electric planes, at least for short-haul flights, could make flying greener in the future. But we're not there yet, and that's why I have concerns about airport expansion, which will result in more carbon emissions, air pollution and noise for our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thorogood. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I rise to speak in support of this motion as well. I'd like to concur with my very learned friend from Bocking North. He rose to his feet and made a typically wise contribution that it's extremely disappointing that the opposition saw fit to amend this motion to remove warmly welcome to instead note this excellent news for local jobs and growth. We should always welcome more local growth and investment. In the Chancellor's spooky Halloween budget last week, we learnt that national growth has been downgraded over the next 5 years. So the fact that we are getting 5,000 jobs, local jobs, is going to be fantastic for local growth over the next 5 years. I represent the most deprived ward in this district. 5.3% of my residents in Bocking South are unemployed. I'd like to draw particular attention to point 4, which welcomes the Stansted Airport College, which I'm very pleased to hear that the leader of the Independent and Green Group's niece benefited from. That college is a fast track to the 12,000 jobs that Stansted Airport currently offers, in addition to its Aerozone outreach programme for school-age children. Courses on offer include aeronautical engineering, airport operations maintenance, cabin crew, air traffic control and events management, all fantastic careers for local people. I know that for some well-heeled members opposite, they can do without new jobs and growth. Residents in my ward cannot do without these new jobs and this local growth. This is not something that they would note. This is something they would warmly welcome. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Councillor Staines.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to note and sympathise with neighbouring Uttlesford District Council members, planning team and residents as they find themselves overawed at appeal to expansion of Stansted. Many Braintree residents regularly feel in this position as our district is coveted by more extraction, more transportation capacity and incineration, and this is while we wait to learn about electricity transmission for pylons and incarceration prisons. I agree with the need to seek to influence national air traffic services not to overfly our district's key residential, tourist and nature recovery areas. On public transport, Essex County Council was unable to secure a condition to increase staff and passenger travel by public transport, as MAG Stansted is only one of 200 businesses operating at this sprawling site. And while public transport is a county matter, I'd like this district chamber to focus on helping resolve the fragmented and shambolic rural public bus services that residents have to endure today. On education, the Harlow College franchise at Stansted Airport has no links to Colchester Institute, and across the 3 strands outlined by Jack, delivers only 2 courses at NVQ level 4 and above. Members from all groups will know that over half of the Braintree district workforce has NVQ level 2 as its highest qualification, and that we lag behind Chelmsford and Uttlesford. And more importantly, this means those folks take home between 20 and 40% less than average. So I suggest a bigger priority is to attract higher skill and higher paying roles into the Braintree district proper to anchor here and grow. On the visitor economy, the Stansted announcement may have been eclipsed for many by the Lonely Planet 10 in 2025, which listed East Anglia as a global tourist destination. The wider benefit to district communities from the visitor economy of £12 billion a year is disproportionately shared across Cambridgeshire, Suffolk, Norfolk and Essex today. Getting a bigger slice of this seems to have a higher likelihood of better looking after not just our people, but also our places, landscapes and communities too. In response to the Lonely Planet listing, Emily Mace of Anglia Ruskin University suggests that there is a regional need to develop a more diverse visitor offer to help ensure the benefits are shared beyond Cambridge, Southwold, Norfolk Coast, or Hello Braintree District. BDC sponsored brown signs highlighting our visitor attractions of Finchingfield, Castle Hedingham and Coggeshall on key roads, rail and air hubs might deliver more footfall than the 6,000 annual contribution to Visit East of England secured via the S106 agreement. Thank you. I'll abstain from this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Staines. Councillor Mrs Parker.
Thank you. Yes, I'm going to be pleased to support this motion. I think it's going to bring substantial economic benefits to our district, even though it's outside the district, and great job opportunities as well. As representing a rural ward just in the north of the district, I'm pleased to see that the motion includes a commitment to make sure that this council is involved in any consultation on future airspace transformation, which I think is going to be, there's going to be a consultation on that fairly soon. I do have aircraft flying over my house, and sometimes they are quite noisy, and I know it is a concern that is shared by a lot of my residents in my ward. So I have attended a number of consultations with Manchester Airport Group, and they are also trying to address the issue of aircraft noise, and the way they are proposing to do that is to raise fees for aircraft which are noisier aircraft, noisier and older aircraft, and they feel that that actually will have a much greater impact on the noise problems that are experienced. And I have to say, over the years I've lived where I do, the noise problems I think have actually decreased. So I think it's I think these problems can be addressed, and I'm pleased to see that we are committing to be involved in that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mrs Parker. Councillor Finch.
Whilst I understand Stansted Airport is in a different district, the Braintree District Council has both declared and has strategies in place to combat the climate change emergency, which improves including air quality as a priority. How is this motion aligning with this strategy? Pollution within air travel doesn't stop at the district border. Why should this motion be positive when the Council accepts we're in a climate emergency, knowing how bad air travel can be for the environment? Having solar panels as an addition is great, but it doesn't solve the added pollution that is going to be pumped out of this expansion. An expansion that is predicting the current rate of over 28.5 million passengers per annum grow to 43 million. Whilst it's been mentioned this evening, no flights are currently to be added, there will be added congestion on the roads from workers and passengers. Do I support having the solar panels? Yes. Do I support extra job opportunities? Yes. But I cannot support this motion as I feel it does not align with what we as a council have declared regarding our climate change strategy and how negative the expansion could be to the health of residents in both our district and the wider area. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Finch. Councillor Tom Cunningham.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Well, first of all, can I just say what a really good debate we've had on this this evening, and I'm generally very pleased that we seem to have found some common ground on this. I did wonder if this might be an issue where we struggled, but I'm very, very pleased to see that on the part we have. Madam Chairman, I just want to go back to, I believe it was the summer of 2013, where this authority passed a motion in support of maximum capacity within the one runway configuration at Stansted Airport. It was a few months after Manchester Airport Group had taken over the airport and had set it on a pretty ambitious growth trajectory. Now, Emma Wisby will be able to tell me the exact date probably and the outcome of that vote, because I think she and a few others were there at the time. But there was cross-party support that day. As I think, and I looked at some more experienced colleagues on both sides, there has tended to be a cross-party consensus regarding matters of Stansted Airport, probably going back to the 90s and the early noughties, when the early 2000s, when I think the last Labour government really did actually try and take on the issue of airport capacity across the southeast of England, something that, dare I say, subsequent governments have really, rather to use the phrase, kicked the can down the road. I think it's important to realise there is always has been a historical post-war inevitability that London Stansted Airport would play a major role in the airport capacity of this country. And I've read recently that actually there was plans in the 1950s for Stansted to become the second airport serving the London airport. I think a noticeable intervention by the Member of Parliament for Saffron Walden at the time, Mr Butler, who was Deputy Prime Minister. Now, we on this side have a high ambition that the current Member of Parliament for the Saffron Walden area perhaps takes a step further, but that's not a conversation for this evening, and goes one better. But nevertheless, Stansted has been part of the airport discussion for quite some time. I do agree with Councillor Beavis, and I think that's why we wanted to reaffirm the commitment to better public transport. It is grossly unfair, not just in terms of transport, but also in terms of those likely to be impacted by noise, as Councillor Parker suggested, that those that can see the undercarriages of the 737s on final approach have difficulty getting to the airport. That does seem to be an inequality that needs to be addressed. But I think we can, if we can agree behind this position, it gives further support to Manchester Airport Group, who have demonstrated in the 11.5 years that they have been running the airport that they are positive in terms of working with communities, and there is residual benefit if we have those strong relationships. And with respect to Councillor Staines and matters relating to Uttlesford District Council, I would perhaps politely suggest that if their members had taken a perhaps more positive, proactive conversation in terms of dealing with Manchester Airport Group, instead of going down the rather costly and highly wasteful approach they did, where the real losers on that were the residents of Uttlesford, then there might have been better outcomes for our neighbouring district. But I won't say any more now, but thank colleagues for their cross-party consensus so far. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Garrod.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just want to briefly speak about the solar farm because I think that's really important. So it's a 14.3 megawatt solar farm, and planning consent was received in August 2022 with an intention to complete in 2025. It's designed to meet the airport's current and increasing electricity demands, including from the growing use of electric vehicles, and it will contribute to the airport's commitment to make its operations net zero carbon by no later than 2038. The project will be supported by the implementation of additional screening measures such as planting new trees, hedgerow reinstatement and new hedgerows. Now, London Stansted has had a track record of sustainable development, including achieving independently verified carbon neutral status in 2016 for the airport operations under their own direct control. The airport will be able to generate its own renewable electricity on site, connecting directly to their own private network, increasing the security of energy supply, while at the same time freeing up renewable energy they currently purchase for others to use elsewhere on the grid. So I think that's really important. But I would just like to mention, I would like this council to consider talking to the airport about their funding opportunities. They have really marvellous funding opportunities, but the catchment area is just a little bit too small. So I would like members to consider that and maybe put that down for discussion at some point. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Garrett. Councillor Hooks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representing the ward that is closest in the Braintree district to Stansted Airport, I feel compelled to speak on this subject. The airport and its expansion is a polarising subject across the North Essex and Hertfordshire, but there have been some positives. The construction of Stansted Airport College is providing training and qualifications on a range of skilled jobs. My own son was in the first cohort to qualify as an aircraft maintenance engineer as an apprentice for a Braintree business. Therefore, I agree that as a neighbouring district council, we should be promoting this great resource to enhance people's skill sets in our own district. However, expansion does come at a cost. Rain is often under the flight path, bringing loud, low flying aircraft over the village. There have been concerns logged over the years about the height and level of noise of aircraft. There have also been concerns of aircraft taking off and landing out of the permitted flying times. So I do encourage and support that here at Braintree we are active in participating with NATS on current and future flight paths over our district. Many Rain residents, like Braintree residents, are employed at the airport. After all, it is one of the biggest employers in the area. But public transport needs to be better. For example, Rain is lucky to be on the direct bus route between Stansted and Braintree, but it only runs one bus an hour. This is not good enough from our major town to our major employment area. This hourly bus service also supports students getting to the on-site college, but will see them arriving ridiculously early due to the current timetable. Whilst Rain is on the bus route, the other area in my ward, namely Sailing, and the other villages beyond it, further down the rural road like Bardfield and Finchingfield, struggle to access the 133 bus service as they need to travel to the B1256 to catch the bus. More joined up thinking is required to link these communities. The expanded DigiGo service can get residents to Great Dunmow, that is on the bus route, but is only bookable a week in advance, and it can be difficult to book a specific time, which is not ideal for ensuring to get to college or to work on time, or even to catch your flight. I welcome that BDC wants to work with Essex County Council and other public transport providers because the transport links can and should be much better. Although Stansted Airport is outside of our district, and whatever people think of the airport, it is here to stay. Its operations can positively and negatively affect our district, and I welcome that here at Braintree District Council we want to commit to and influence to help and protect our residents. Therefore, I will be supporting the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Hooks. Councillor Van Dorken, having reserved the right to speak, do you wish to do so now?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I echo the words of Councillor Cunningham. We've had a very, very good debate, and a lot of very interesting ideas and thoughts have jumped up. But in the first instance, I'm pleased to second and support this motion, welcoming the confirmation of the good news for the region and indeed the district
in terms of employment, tourism, business, and indeed connectivity with the rest of the world. A few points came up which I might mention. We're talking about sustainability. Councillor Garrett giving a good explanation of how the solar farm will basically make the airport itself sustainable in electricity. Members may not realise that one of the major airlines operating out of Stansted, Jet2, has since this summer been using sustainable aircraft fuel, which greatly reduces the amount of emissions. This is made from cooking oil, if anybody's interested. The airport site itself provides jobs for over 12,000 employees. 12,000, that's a lot, a very substantial number, and at least 1,800 of those live in our district. The news that in time an additional 5,000 jobs will be available, just a 15-minute drive or indeed a bus ride from Braintree, must be good news for the employment prospects of our residents. Many workers on the airport, and as we've heard today or this evening, some students use the excellent 24-hour-a-day X20 bus service that runs between Colchester to the airport via Braintree and Rain. There are actually 22 services a day, so it's a 24-hour-a-day. I appreciate it. It's 1 an hour. There's now one that arrives at 8:28, by the way. A bit late, but regrettably, though, these working people and students will soon be having to pay an additional £400 or so a year following the raise of the cap on fares from £2 to £3, which sadly will do little to dissuade commuters and indeed prospective passengers from driving to and from the airport, which is probably something we should encourage. I very much support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Van Dolken. Councillor Ritchie, you may reply. Please, can you remind you that you should confine your reply to the speeches heard this evening, and you should not introduce any new matters.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and I'd just like to echo what Councillor Van Dolken and Councillor Cunningham said about the number of councillors that have spoken on this item tonight. I thought it might be a little bit emotive, but I was quite surprised as to how many people wanted to speak on this item tonight. I'll try and reply to a few of those, if that's okay, Madam Chairman. Councillor Beevers, I absolutely get your point about a bus service. It reminds me of the day when I used to catch 4 buses and 1 train just to get to Otley College when I was a 16-year-old. And as a member of, as a nominated member, I'm sure Councillor Van Dolken will champion when he meets with the Stansted Airport Consultative Committee next any issues around local transport. I think that picks up Councillor Hooks' point as well. I think that's vital to enable those who have got an interest in aviation from our district to be able to get to the airport. Councillor Boyle and Councillor Edwards mentioned the need for good jobs, not just at entry level, but well-paid jobs as well. Members, I started off my career in aviation at Stansted Airport as a baggage handler and an aircraft dispatcher. For those of you that don't know, that's pretty much an entry-level job. I am now a director at London City Airport, so it does work. Stansted Airport does provide that stepping stone into the aviation sector for those who are minded to enter into that. Councillor Mary Cunningham mentioned tourism, with the benefits of the reversal of a city break for those that want to visit the UK. Why not base yourself in Braintree for a city break in Chelmsford or Cambridge? It's an ideal place to base yourself. And as you mentioned, the Task and Finish group held by Councillor Pell specifically made mention of being able to attract people to the district, not just on a day basis, but on a weekend basis too. Councillor Thorogood mentioned about the increase in pollution. Obviously, as mentioned, the increase in passenger numbers is going to be met by the existing air traffic movement numbers of just over 243,000 and 20,500 for cargo. Everyone in the aviation industry is working and playing their part, not just to reduce the amount of their carbon emissions, but also with things like fleet densification, so that they increase their seating capacity on their existing fleets, but also there's work that we've done alongside this to encourage aircraft to move to newer fleets that are more environmentally friendly, have higher yields. So why would you fly two Boeing 737-800s when you can fly a larger aircraft and get that capacity met in one air traffic movement rather than two? Councillor Staines, I think quite erroneously mentioned it was a sad indictment for the residents of Uttersford for the planning permission to have been granted. It was granted for good reason, and that's because the grounds that Uttersford tried to refuse it on were wrong, as noted by Mr Callum Parker of the Planning Inspectorate. And as Councillor Cunningham quite rightly said, the only shame was that the residents of Uttersford have had to pay towards the costs when it could have been put into other sustainable or green initiatives within the Uttersford district. Councillor Parker, I absolutely get your point, and again, to the point that Councillor Hook's made around airspace modernisation. It is something that works alongside the expansion, not just at Stansted, but across the southeast. The CIA are investing £150 million into investing into an outdated National Air Traffic Control Service that has catered for aircraft, some of which have long ceased to have been flying, and that needs to go hand in hand with any expansion, not just at Stansted Airport, but at any airport. And I'm sure that we will be involved as part of the consultee process, as part of that process. Councillor Garrett mentioned solar farms. Again, it's absolutely welcome that they are going to start to generate their energy by an on-site solar farm, and we absolutely get your point around the catchment area being quite centric to the area. Again, I'm sure my colleague Councillor Van Dolken will pick that up as part of a representative from the Stansted Airport Consultative Committee. Madam Chairman, I could mention a few more, but I think I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you for your indulgence. Thank you. And I so move. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ritchie. We will now take the vote. Members, please can I remind you that you are voting on the motion as set out on the addendum report. All those in favour of the motion, please indicate. All those members against this motion, please indicate. Are there any abstentions? Thank you, members. Thank you, members. The motion has been approved. As we have now dealt with the motions, we will next proceed to the agenda item number 6, questions for the Leader of the Cabinet. During this item, members, you may ask only one question of the Leader and the Cabinet on matters which relate to their functions, the powers and duties of the Council, or matters pertaining to the district. Questions must be succinct and cannot be asked in parts, or supplementary questions are not permitted. Please can I remind members that they may not make statements before asking their questions. I will allow some explanations if it is necessary, but I will curtail any long leading statements. We have 30 minutes for this item. Questions will commence with Councillor Beavis as Leader of the Opposition, and the order of remaining questions will be at my discretion. Please can members wishing to ask a question this evening now indicate so that we can make a list. Please keep your hands raised until acknowledged. Thank you. Councillor Beavis, are you able to respond to this evening's... I beg your pardon. Thank you, members. Councillor Beavis, do you have any questions this evening?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And there's a lot of questions this evening, so I'm happy for a written response. And my question is to the Leader of the Council, and it follows a response I've had from the Leader of the Council, a very comprehensive response, actually, to a question that I submitted. But one of the questions I asked was around an update on the NEC, the North Essex Councils, and I can't see it listed in the response, so just an update on this response would be useful. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Beavis. Councillor Butland, are you able to respond to this evening, or will it be a written response?
Madam Chairman, I'm happy to add to my response. Will do.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. Councillor Coleridge.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is to the Cabinet Member for Finance, Resources and Performance to ask if they will join me in welcoming the decision by NEPP to scrap the proposed parking charges in Witham, and whether he will advocate it elsewhere in the district. Thank you.
Councillor Bowers, can you respond to that?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, this is good and welcome news, though just to say that the on-street parking sites are still just proposals at this stage. The next NEP joint committee meeting is held on the 14th of this month, though nothing will be formally agreed at the meeting regarding the on-street parking. If the proposals are something the NEP decide to move forward with, there will be a consultation period for stakeholders to have their say and feedback into the consideration. As well as the Witham area, there are proposals that include Bocking End and High Street Housestead, but like I say, I do welcome this good news. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Councillor Jeffries.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. It's just a quick question to Councillor Bowers-Flint. Thanking her for the information that she'd got and that she's managed to get an appointment to see the Chief Executive at Eastlight Housing, and wondered how that went. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jeffries. Councillor Bowers-Flint.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I would love to report back had that meeting been held. However, it hasn't. And we're now lined up for the 28th of February, and I've been honoured with 1 hour from 3:30 to 4:30. So I am going to have to talk mighty quick on that hour. But can I thank all members for sending me information where they've had their frustrations. But Madam Chairman, can I just please thank Councillor Diamond, who has actually been a diamond, in the professional way that he has dealt with his constituents and Eastlight as well. He hasn't lost his rag once, and he would well be within his rights to do that, but he has helped some very elderly residents who have suffered at the hands of Eastlight's slow service. So can I pay thank you to you, and I will be taking it up at that meeting very quickly. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Bowers-Flint. Councillor Williams.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. My residents in Witham Central were delighted to see last week that the new long-awaited community centre has taken a step forward. There's now an agreement between BDC and the Town Council to transfer that wonderful asset to the Town Council. Can I ask the portfolio holder responsible what the next steps are in terms of this project, and also when residents in my ward might expect this brilliant new centre to be open?
Councillor Bowers.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, I'm pleased to confirm that we now had agreed ahead some terms with Witham Town Council to own and operate the Witham Community Centre when it is constructed.
This now clears the way for Braintree District Council to enter into a formal contract with Witham Town Council to confirm they will take on the building. I'm also pleased to confirm that we are now in the process of finalising the award of the construction contract for the centre, with the works due to begin early in the new year, which will see the centre opening in early 2026. This new building, paid for by Section 106 funding secured through housing development and Braintree District Council's own capital funding, will provide the residents of Witham with a fantastic new facility to support the community across the town. We're very pleased to have been able to work so positively with Witham Town Council in agreeing the transfer of the centre and to support the residents that both councils serve. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Bowers. Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question on planning enforcement. There was a review group on planning enforcement, and one of the actions was to increase the information communication on ongoing planning enforcement actions toward councillors. This is still in hand. Also, the recent enforcement action in our ward does not seem to be equal and proportionate. Can the report from this group be sent to all councillors? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Councillor Butland, I will call upon you in the absence of Councillor Spray.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I know Councillor Spray is watching this tonight, even though she's not well enough to come, and I am sure she will, well, I will ask her to make a written response to you and publish to all members, if that is okay, through you, Madam Chairman, if that's okay, Councillor Wright. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Good.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. Councillor Martin.
Thank you. My question to Council is that shortly after the recent, it was a while ago now, the general election, but I did try to ask this question again last time, but I think we ran out of time. Yes, so shortly after the general election, I asked the question regarding a report on the council's performance at the general election. The leader of the council said that he would be liaising with leaders of the opposition parties to produce a report. This has not happened, so I asked the leader again, when will a report on the council's performance at the general election be available to members?
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Councillor Butland.
As soon as we can get it done, it is on the to-do list, and we will do it as promptly as we can. You will appreciate that through you, Madam Chairman, there have been a lot of other issues as well, pressing, which we've had to deal with and officers have had to deal with, but it has not been forgotten.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. Councillor Diamond.
At the last full council meeting, I spoke of the difficulties with Eastlight Community Homes and the fact they were unduly slow to act unless contacted by a councillor. Councillor Lynette Bowers-Flint, the Cabinet Member for Housing, Health and Wellbeing, who has been absolutely outstanding on this, agreed with me that it was unacceptable for the vulnerable residents to be living with rats and unable to wash. These are examples, by the way, that have come up with me recently. While I understand Braintree District Council has outsourced social housing to Eastlight, the council is still democratically accountable for social housing. What powers does the council have to inspect and, if necessary, sanction Eastlight? And which of these sanctions have already been used? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Diamond. Councillor Lynette Bowers-Flint.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chairman. A little bit of mutual admiration between Councillor Diamond and myself, but I wished you'd have forewarned me of that question. I don't think we have any, but I will come back to you and I will distribute it to all councillors, because I don't think we have any, whilst the Eastlight are basically the owners of the property of those tenants. I understand your frustrations, share your frustrations, you know that. But I will come back to everybody on that, but I don't think so as it stands. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bowers-Flint. Councillor Prime.
Sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I wasn't asleep, I can assure you. One of the first things that the new national government did was cancel Levelling Up. How does that have an effect on funding for this council? And as we've employed someone to monitor the Levelling Up on this council, how does that fall that role? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Prime. Councillor Bowers.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. The budget announced that the government is minded to withdraw funding from Levelling Up culture projects and capital regeneration projects announced at the 2024 spring budget, but will consult before making any final decisions. There are no projects in this category that were being developed or delivered in the Braintree district. It was also announced in the budget that the UK Shared Prosperity Fund would continue at a reduced level for a further year, and for which we will have to wait and see how the 900 million proposed is to be allocated. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Bowers. Councillor Hayes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is for Councillor Bowers as well. Following last week's budget and the announcement to increase employers' national contributions, a decision that the IFS reports results in an increase of £900 for each median earner. Do we know yet the financial implications that this short-sighted decision will have on this council?
Thank you, Councillor Hayes. Councillor Bowers, you're getting a workout tonight.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. On the issue of raising employers' NI rate to 15% from 13.8% and reducing threshold from £9,100 to £5,000, we have received communication from the MHCLG following the budget statement. The communication has told us from the MHCLG was we will deliver these reforms in partnership with local government and set out more detail in a policy statement in November. This statement will also provide detail on the upcoming 25-26 provisional local government finance settlement to assist authorities with the process of budget planning for the next financial year. And we will set out more detail on our plans to compensate local authorities for increasing the employer national insurance contributions. We obviously very much look forward to the policy statement, as without being compensated as a public sector employer for the NI national insurance contribution increase, the estimated impact on our pay bill would be an extra £500,000 per annum, and obviously would have a very substantial impact on the MTFS. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Bowers. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. The Chancellor's Halloween budget last week hiked £40 billion worth of tax on family farms, small businesses, and yes, Madam Chair, working people. However, for all this pain, I was really disappointed to see scant little on tackling poverty in the budget. As someone who represents the most deprived ward in this district, I was proud to stand on a manifesto in 2023 that committed this council to setting aside £1 million into our cost of living fund. Will the relevant cabinet member please update us on the steps they are taking to support struggling families across this district? And do they share my disappointment that is yet again this local Conservative government stepping in where this national Labour government have failed? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Councillor Bowers.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. At this stage, we don't fully understand the impact of the budget on the council and our residents directly. More info will come with the local government finance settlement, which may have some info on how the most vulnerable are being supported through things such as the Homeless Prevention Grant and others. In regards to what this council has done up until now, obviously BDC agreed a £1 million cost of living fund in January 2023 to provide food security and access to essential goods across the district, making it easier for everyone to reach, including those living in our mostly rural areas, to help the most vulnerable by supporting community groups and organisations to do more. These groups are already doing some incredible work and are well placed to identify and support those who need help most, and to enable physical and emotional health and well-being for anyone, especially young people, struggling to afford vital services to leisure activities and sports clubs. We updated the poverty report in early 2024 with identified areas of focus for the cost of living partnership. We have spent or committed over £500,000 of this funding for a range of projects and have recently produced a booklet to help support those who are affected by the winter fuel payment changes. As Councillor Butland alluded to at the start of the meeting tonight, an update report will be coming to Cabinet in November, which will set out what has been sent and the impact so far, and as we look forward with the cost of living support. So that's where we would be able to identify a little bit more about what support we are providing to those who may be struggling. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Bowers. Thank you, members. That concludes this item. Any questions requiring a written response will be answered within 10 working days of this meeting and shared with all members. Any members...
Councillor Abbott had a question. Apologies, Madam Chairman. Councillor Abbott was on the... Oh, we missed it.
I beg your pardon, Councillor Abbott. Would you like to speak, sir?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I thought we'd been guillotined by time, or otherwise. I'm not quite sure who this goes to. We hear a lot in this chamber about big ticket items and projects, and that's fair enough. But the question I'd like to ask about is the local issues, which are just as important to residents, such as in Silver End, who Councillor Wright and I represent. It's becoming increasingly difficult to get things done via this council, and that's not to disparage officers. I know they're doing their best. The recent examples include replacing a fence, a small area of parking for a local facility, and even changing one light bulb in a street light. We don't seem to be able to progress any of these things. Can the Cabinet Member or Leader advise on this situation, and is this council in danger of losing its reputation as a can-do authority to help local residents?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I hope it isn't losing its reputation as a can-do. I think we still provide services which would be the envy of many local authorities. However, as we recognise tonight in the motions we passed, there is an issue about resources across the whole of local government. And some of the things which might, in years gone by, be able to send someone out to do a change of a light bulb, etc., is extremely difficult to get done. I hope that we can continue to provide as good a service as possible, but I think all of us who have been in local government for any period of time recognise that we are probably in the most difficult period for local government generally in terms of funding and what is available. If there are, I'm going to open up a hornet's nest here, but if members do have a specific point which has been going on for some time, if they'd like to drop me a line, I make no promises that it will be done immediately, but I will certainly ensure that it has been taken full account of in terms of priorities. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. Thank you, members. That concludes this item for the final time. Any questions requiring response will be answered within 10 working days of this meeting and shared with all members. We will now proceed to item 10 of the agenda, Braintree District Council's revised licensing policy statement in respect of the Gambling Act 2005. Members, this report is an item set out on page 11 to 57 of the agenda. Please can I invite Councillor George Prime, the Chairman of the Licensing Committee, to introduce the report and move the recommendation. Please can I also remind you that before you make your speech, your recommendation must be seconded.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do move this report.
Councillor Prime has moved and recommended as set out on page 11 of the agenda. Please can we have a seconder? Ramage, do you wish to reserve the right to speak?
No, thank you, Chair, but I will second it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ramage. I will now invite Councillor Prime to speak on this matter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The report before members sets out the proposed gambling licensing policy statement for adoption by full council. The council has an obligation, a legal obligation, under the Gambling Act of 2005 to have a policy which must be reviewed and republished every 3 years. The policy principle sets out that the council, being the licensing authority, will apply to promote the licensing objectives when making decisions on applications for licences made under the Gambling Act 2005 and the subsequent 3 years. There is a slight error on the agenda there. Recommendations on paragraph, set out in paragraph 2.1 refers to a period of the policy being 2024 to 2027. This is an error and it should read 2025 as stated on the policy appendix to the report. The policy consultation was undertaken from the 14th of April to this year to the 7th of July this year, and we had one single response which highlighted a policy to do with redundant enforcement protocols from Essex Police. This has now been amended and there is an explanation in the full report. There have been no other changes to the council's licensing policy and therefore the licensing committee have reviewed it and we've accepted it, so I'm now putting this forward to full council for passing.
Thank you, Councillor Prime. Councillor Ramage, as you haven't reserved your right to speak, do you wish to do so, sir? Do any other members wish to speak on this item? If so, please indicate by raising your hand, and please keep your hand raised until you have been acknowledged. Councillor Mary. I think that was it. Mary Cunningham. Yeah, okay. Councillor Cunningham. Mrs. Cunningham.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Nothing to add, but just to thank Councillor Prime for bringing this to full council and to acknowledge the work that the licensing team officers have done in preparing the policy and carrying out the consultation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ramage. Councillor Prime. Would you like to reply to the speeches before I put the recommendations to the vote? Please do not introduce any new matters.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to second the officers. The licensing team have done a very good job with this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Prime. Thank you, members. The recommendation is set out on page 11 of the agenda. It has been moved and seconded. All those in favour of the recommendations, please indicate. Unanimous. Thank you, members. That is a unanimous vote. Recommendations have been approved. Thank you, members. We will now deal with the agenda item 11. Award for contract for solar installation at Whittam Leisure Centre. Urgent decision required. Members, this is an item set out on page 58 to 60 of the agenda. This item is to note and therefore no requirement to seek a seconder for this item. As such, please can I invite Councillor Butler, the Leader of the Council, to speak on this report.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This report sets out for members the reasoning why I felt it appropriate to take a special urgent decision in the light of advice from the monitoring officer regarding the application of solar panels to the Whittam Leisure Centre. You will have seen through the report the very tight timetable, starting with a sort of 3-month application from Sports England to do it. But the key date was that to accept the grant, which is not insignificant, the commissioning and indeed the installation needed to be done by the 31st of March of next year, 2025. We were advised that to do that, we would need to ensure that the tendering work was done certainly no later than the middle of October and as early as possible. Against that background, I agreed in accordance with paragraph 13(11) of our Constitution to accept the recommendation from the monitoring officer and to allow that to take place. You have before you tonight the outcome of that process, which will mean that we will be able to meet the deadline required for what I think we all will agree is something, given what we've been talking about tonight in terms of energy conservation and things like that, is a very important asset to go on the Whittam Leisure Centre, both the car park and the building itself. So this is to note, but I hope members will feel that I have taken the right decision as leader in this instance. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. Do any members wish to speak on this item? If so, please indicate by raising your hand, and please keep your hand raised until you have been acknowledged. Councillor Abbott.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, just very briefly, in welcoming this report and obviously for the reasons Councillor Butland set out the decision. Some members might remember I made a right nuisance of myself when this proposal was first made to replace the leisure centre by almost demanding, as far as I'm allowed to do so. It had solar panels on the roof, and when it opened, I was given a tour of the roof. So all I wanted to say is I can confirm, having been on the roof, that there is capacity for a larger solar array, and I'm delighted that it's going ahead.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Butland, would you like to reply to the speeches before I ask the members to note the report? Please do, please do not introduce any new matters.
Madam Chairman, I can't ever remember Councillor Abbott making a nuisance of himself. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. Members, as this report is for noting, please indicate that the report has been noted by the way of a show of hands. Thank you, members. Members, this concludes the business for this evening. Thank you for your attendance and participation in this evening's meeting, and to those watching on the Council's YouTube channel. The recording of this meeting will be published on the Council's YouTube channel as soon as possible. I formally close this meeting of the full Council at 9:38.